As I said in the last video that I just got finished recording, this is a book that I read, I think, mostly in November, and just ended up sitting down and reviewing a couple of days ago. That sometimes doesn't result in the best of book reviews, and for that I very much apologize, but I did want to say a couple of words about it, just in case you were interested in the time period, and it also is part of a series, other books in which you might actually run across sometimes, so I did want to say a little bit of something about it. This is a book by Mark Kishlansky. It's called A Monarchy Transformed, Britain from 1603 to 1714. And for those of you familiar with your British monarchy, you know those are the first and last years, respectively, of the Stuarts and their rule of Britain. Again, these are just some general impressions that I had about the book. This is the 6th volume so far in the 10-volume Penguin History of Britain series. As with many of these, this was a little bit of a slog. They can be somewhat technical. They can have some people and some events that even readers who are interested in the time period aren't terribly familiar with. And that was kind of the case with me. I don't know why I really keep doing this to myself as far as reading these, but I do. Call me a masochist, I guess. The author is Mark Kishlansky, who's a professor of English and English history at Harvard, and seems eminently qualified to make this an engaging history and book, but it doesn't really quite turn out to be so engaging. Some reviews have referred to it as a good, solid undergraduate history of the Stuart period, and that might be the case, but I would certainly want to read it in a class with a professor that was sort of rallying sources from other places and had a better ability to pull together narratives in a more interesting way. A period that was so riven by political and social conflict should probably be handled with political and social history, but I myself have always been more interested in cultural and intellectual history, the history of ideas, which this volume, and it seems most volumes in the series, actually ignores. Though I've tried not to fault that for as far as my rating is concerned. The 3 out of 5 stars is I'm taking the book to be what it is and for what it is, and not what I wanted it to be. Also, a reader who asks himself or herself at the end of the book, how was the monarchy transformed in these years, would have a difficult time answering the question precisely because of the way that Kishlansky writes the book. It's a series of vivid vignettes full of vibrant, even if not very well-known personalities, which sort of leaves you drawing your own conclusions. He doesn't really come out and get very explicit with how the monarchy was transformed, as he says in the title. The changes that happen to the important institutions, however, like I said, are much less important than the personalities and the events that take place. So, there are my general impressions about this book. I'm sort of a completist, so whenever I see one of these series, I ignore the fact that I really disliked the previous 3 and just get it anyway. They look so lovely next to one another on a shelf. Mark Kishlansky's A Monarchy Transformed, Britain, 1603 to 1714.